What is going on, everyone? We have an interesting group of people with us today. The Bitter Birds, Philly500. We will discuss some Eagles football. We're a little bit of ways till the regular season. It's not there yet, but the itch is there. I put on the Fletcher Cox jersey because we might get into some deep penetration, if you will. Fellas, how are you feeling today?
What's up, bro? Yo, everybody doing? Hey, it's great to be here. Adrian, it's great to see you. Thanks for inviting us on, man. Appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I know the people are wondering how I'm feeling. Listen, guys, soon, there are things going on behind the scenes, but once it happens and once I come back, Dan,
I can't wait.
about this preseason game, because nobody really cares about me.
Yes, we do. Don't say
love
that.
you.
Yeah. All right, but let's talk about Carson Wentz, and this is the conversation that has been going on for a couple of days now, and it's, should Carson Wentz play more in the preseason? I was a fan of him getting some reps, but now that we saw what happened with Nate Sudfeld, I'll be completely honest with you, I switched, I pulled a 180, and I don't want to see him.
Here's what I'll say. I'd like to see him play. Definitely like to see him play in the third preseason game.
But if he was to play, say, a series or two series, when it's week 1 or week 2, are you going to look back at it and say, you know what, that was the reason why? Like, I don't think that there's enough positives when you can compare it to what can happen.
If he plays 1 or 2 series during the regular season, he can get hurt then too.
Well, of course, but those games matter.
I always thought the whole, preseason thing and the injuries and not holding players and holding them out was a little bit overrated. And because, the timing, it needs to be on. You don't have the practices like you used to have. And what is the one thing that we've said about Carson Wentz the last couple of years? Well, he hasn't been ready for the regular season. He's been a little rusty. He's not getting the timing down with his wide receivers. Well, if this is the preseason, he has a chance to get some of that timing down. I'd like to see him play at least a little bit.
I'm kind of back and forth on this. I find myself going back and forth because we saw what happened in Sudfeld, and you don't want Carson to take hits, but at the same time,
it's because we know what's happening to Carson in the past.
But at the same time,
scared.
he hasn't played since that Cowboys game, and he needs to take some fire. I mean, I think if it was me, this is what I would do. I would play him 1 series versus Jacksonville and then 1 quarter in the third preseason game, and then I'd pull him. I think he has to get some reps. Otherwise, he's going to come in, and like Adrian said, he's going to be rusty week 1 or week 2, and I don't want to see that happen. I want him out, and I want to double moonwalk some ass from the get-go. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Everybody else, they don't have to play. Like Zach Ertz, none of those guys. But
so you would throw Carson in without Jason Peters?
No. Starting offensive line has to be out there.
You won't see Lane Johnson, apparently. Lane Johnson shutting it down for the rest of the way, and Dallas Goedert.
I'm glad Goddard's not playing. I saw much of Goddard. Okay, after that first catch he had, I was done. I'm in love. I love
with Mailata? Mailata at right tackle, you're going to have Carson Wentz in the mix?
I am Big Balls Adrian.
He is Big Balls Adrian. Brass balls. Do you hear that? Do you hear that vibration? Those are Adrian's balls rattling.
Doesn't matter if it's the preseason, week 1, week 2, week 4, week 6. Whenever he gets hurt, if he breaks his knee, whatever, we're fucked.
We're done. Yeah.
I hate that this is even a discussion, though. But I was thinking about it the other day, actually. You're in the shower, you're having yourself some thoughts. Of course, you think about the Eagles, right? That's the first thing that comes into your mind. Yeah, exactly. So I was sitting there and I was thinking, is it just us as an Eagles fan base that gets so nervous about their quarterback getting hurt because of who he is? Or does every organization's fans think about injuries during preseason? It seems so heavily thought about this year. And is it just because of Wentz, or do other teams think the same way right now?
I don't know. I just keep thinking about when I'm in the shower, I start being Merrill Reese, and I'm already call playing. I think I'm on week 7 of the regular season.
Come on. That's amazing.
I'm like the Bears, Carson Wentz, go along with Deshaun Jackson. Sounds so much better in the shower. I'm back. I at times think he shouldn't play. Then at times I'm like, I think reps. So
I don't think we need to go out and get another quarterback, though. Do you think we need another quarterback, like another backup quarterback, a Sam Bradford, that type of discussion? I think we're just going to have to rock and roll with Cody Kessler.
I think the only kind of guy I would bring in is a guy that can, that is definitely not going to make the team, but he's going to take some snaps.
So, like you're looking for a camp arm, you're saying?
Yeah, basically a camp arm. I don't want Sam Stink. Forget it. I don't care at all costs. I don't want anything to do with him. Yeah, I don't think we need another backup.
And if Carson Wentz gets hurt, we're fucked anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah. That's the way I think about it. If he goes down, there's a bigger problem. There's a huge problem. And I think we're all big-time Carson Wentz believers. Like, we really want this guy to succeed. We believe in him. There was no discussion with the other names that I don't even want to talk about ever again in Philly, as much as I love him. There's just this feeling that if he goes down again this year, there's a discussion on what we do moving forward, no?
Well, I mean,
you're going to have to keep him because you paid him now.
Well, of course, it's not about keeping him. Of course he's going to be here, but what is he at that point? I guess it's the narrative changes on, all right, we can never believe that he's going to stay healthy.
I think it's fair if he gets hurt, like, and I'm not talking 1 or 2 games because of a concussion, but like if he's out, doesn't play in the playoffs again, then I think it's fair to say that he's injury prone. I think it's a fair label to put on him at that point.
I think it's fair as well because you're looking at the situation here and what he's doing to his body. After doing all of these things, then yes, we have to be for it. Now, the other thing I'll say is the law of averages have themselves a way of working out.
I also think that when you look at like the injury he was coming back from, the torn ACL, it's just many times guys the first year back, they get other injuries. Just coming back from that's a hard injury to come back from, and he wasn't really healthy at all last year. I think that things are going to average out this year. I really do. Keeping
it on the offensive side of the ball, we got JJ Arcega-Whiteside. Is that the correct pronunciation we're going with now? I know that's a discussion being had around the city. I guess we'll go with it. What do you think his role is going to be? I mean, how much time can you see him get? I mean, he obviously has what it takes when it comes to pretty much Alshon Jeffrey's game. It seems like it's going to be very similar to that, maybe even with a little bit more speed. I don't know. I'm just spitballing. But I think that J.J. Arcega-Whiteside is going to have a good role, but how big of a role do you think?
He'll be definitely used in the red zone. That is definitely for sure because that's his strong point, 50-50 ball, like Alshon Jeffrey, like you were saying. So I can see a lot of that. I can see go routes, stuff like that. If you want to put him out there in 3-4 wide receiver sets as an outside guy, if you want to give Jackson a couple, snaps off, but mostly red zone threat is where I see him playing his first year.
Yeah, well, they've been in practice. They've been going a lot of the 12-man personnel in the red zone, and they take Deshaun Jackson out and they've been putting him in. So I think you're going to see a lot of him in the red zone. And I got to tell you, he's a lot faster than I thought he would be. He reminds me of Mike Evans. That's when I watch him. He, to me, is a spitting image of Mike Evans. I'm very high on J.J. Arcega-Whiteside.
If he becomes Mike Evans, holy hell am I going to be pumped up. Mike Evans is a beast.
He is.
He was my most underrated wide receiver heading into the NFL draft. I think he was my 3rd-ranked guy. He was really, really high on the list. So, J.J. Arcega-Whiteside. So, who did freaking what's his name did that? Scott Graham. So he's very technical with his pronunciations. He's the one that started the Nelson Aguilar thing because we all called him Aguilar, and then after he got done with him, Scott Graham, it was Aguilar, and now we all call him Aguilar. So I guess we're going to do the same thing with this. JJ,
I don't know if I can do that.
I know it's weird, but it is right. I believe I heard it before that even was a discussion on the broadcast. They were all talking about how his culture it's actually pronounced with the Arcega-Whiteside. God, I'm looking at it on paper and I have to double take it when I even say it.
Yeah.
I don't like it. I like Arcega.
Yeah, I agree. I like
Arcega.
What about Miles Sanders, boys? Miles Sanders. I can't wait to see this guy.
That's my boy. I was so pumped when I wanted him or Darrell Henderson. Those were the two guys that I thought were the best running backs in this draft. And I'm so high on Miles Sanders. I know he only took 3 carries, didn't do much, but I don't put a whole lot of stock in that first preseason game. But everything we're hearing from him and everything he can do, I really believe by week 8, by week 9, he's your featured back on this team. He's going to get most of the.
I agree. I think he's the best running back on the roster already. I'm not really the biggest Jordan Howard guy in the world, but Miles Sanders, the jump cutting ability, and with the offensive line, the way it's going to be humming, I mean, Jesus Christ, he's going to be making people miss on the second level. He's going to be outstanding.
Yes, he is.
That's what I love to hear. But the running back room as a whole is filled. There's a lot of people in that room, and I was thinking about who's going to make that last spot. Is it going to be Smallwood? Is it going to be Josh Adams? Well, he had that fumble. The thing is, I saw him catch a couple passes, and I was intrigued, actually, and then, okay, there's the fumble. But what about Clement, too? Is that an automatic? Everyone's saying it might not be an automatic, but he looks like to be a clear favorite. To me, it's a no-brainer that he should be on the team.
Yeah, I think he'll make the team.
Yeah, I tell you what, though, I will say this. I'm very disappointed that Josh Adams fumbled the first preseason game. I mean, this was an issue last year, and I thought Smallwood was the best running back in the week 1. It's bad.
Yeah, but you know why? Because he was
the best running back.
Those legs were not stopping. I think he understands that he's do or die right now, and I thought you somewhat saw that in his play. Like, he was moving those legs and wouldn't stop, and you got to respect it. Whether he makes the team or not, he's putting it all out there.
But it is interesting because we got to remember Darren Sproles is on this team too, and I don't think Sproles is going to get cut. They wouldn't have brought him back, so you're going to have Howard, Sanders, Sproles, and probably Clement.
You don't think there's going to be a fifth?
There may be. There very well could be. I wouldn't be surprised. I'm just throwing this out there.
Yeah, what do you think, Adrian? Because I would take 5.
Well, Broads and I had this discussion earlier, and the way you can view Darren Sproles is almost like a wide receiver. So if you keep 5, you basically have Darren Sproles be the 6th wide receiver, and you keep 5 wideouts. That's how I would work that.
Are they going to primarily use Darren Sproles on special teams? Because to me, that's a big factor for Sproles. Sproles has got to be the guy taking your punts. For the most part. punts and like third down conversions. Yeah. But
so
I wouldn't be
run the option rounds.
I wouldn't be surprised if they. I'm just throwing out if they traded a Clement or somebody like that later on in camp for like a defensive end or linebacker, whatever they need.
Well, hold on. When we get to that 6th wide receiver spot, who would that cut? I mean, would that keep Hollins and Michelle? Who would Michelle have to be cut for Darren Sproles? I'm just trying to think here. Like, is that worth it if he goes to a wide receiver spot?
Right now, I'll be honest with you. If Mac Hollins not practicing and play in some of these games, I'm putting him on IR. I'm
not even sure he's going to make this team right now. Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't think so?
Well, like as an IR spot, because I don't know what the hell's going on with him.
Would an IR spot keep him out for the rest of the season?
To November, I think. Right there, he can be put. I think you can bring 1 guy or 2 guys back in November.
Okay,
you can bring 2 guys back. No, I don't know if they would want to bring him back though. Because like another guy might get hurt, and they might want to bring that guy back. So this is a tricky situation.
I mean, last year it was horrible that we had DeAndre Carter and we let him go to Texans. They plucked him off the practice squad, and with Mark and Michelle and the way he's playing and practicing the whole camp, I want this kid. I'm rooting for this kid to make this team. So if Hollins isn't out there, dude, I'm not putting him on that 53. I'm either stashing him or I'm cutting him.
Okay, I'll play the role of contrarian here, and I'll ask the question. Because we've seen this every year. The Rasheed Baileys, the Paul Turners. Is Marquand Michel just another one of those guys?
No. I think he's basically like what you saw with DeAndre Carter.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a great comparison. I don't think he's going to turn into a nobody like a Paul Turner. I think he can be a DeAndre Carter.
Yeah, I mean, look, we're not talking about Pro Bowl wide receiver, starter, or even second string, but 5th, 6th receiver. I think he's very capable, and I think he can. I think he can play it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm on the same page. But you talked about maybe trading Clement for a defensive end. What do you think about the new pickup that Howie traded, the offensive tackle, for, what's his name, Ryan Bates, I believe? Ryan Bates?
Ryan Bates for Eli Harold.
Yes. What do you think about that move? Because I loved it. This guy has legit experience at that position, kind of like what you just said about the Michelle move, where he wouldn't become, a Pro Bowler or whatnot, but he has experience in this league, and with where we are with their defensive ends, it could be a snag.
I'll tell you what, he's got a quicker get-off than Josh Sweat.
Oh, yeah, we'll talk about that too. We'll talk about that too.
And maybe Josh Sweat and the way he played, maybe that's one of the reasons they pulled the trigger on that deal. But I thought it was a sneaky good deal because you're getting a guy with experience who can play, who I think can really compete for a guy who was an undrafted free agent who was probably not going to make this team anyways. So I really thought it was a good deal.
Yeah, I agree. And let's talk about Josh Sweat, because some fans claim that he had a decent day at the office. Other fans said, well, look who he was going up against, so they use that as some sort of excuse. And then you have the fans where we are in, and that is he stunk. He stunk. Yeah. It's pretty obvious that he didn't have a good day.
He didn't have a good day. That doesn't mean we don't like him. That doesn't mean he hasn't progressed. But, my big issue with Josh Sweat, and you guys know it, is if you watch him during that game, he is the slowest guy off the ball. A lot of times, he's the last guy, and it's not just by a hair. It is noticeable.
It's like a snail.
And he just, for whatever reason, he was really late off the ball. I don't, and in times it makes him look like he has no explosion. Now, I think it's fixable, but I just think he had a bad game. I don't think he had a good game.
Listen, I don't want to hear about the Taylor Lewan bullshit, because in the NFL, you play the top 32 tackles in the world. Right. So if you're doing that week in and week out and you're not getting any pressure at all, then there's something wrong. This guy, Josh Sweat, the beat writers, we're hyping him up. This is Kool-Aid drinking season. You got to remember this. So Kool-Aid drinking season, they hype guys up. They hype guys up. They hype guys up. Then the preseason rolls around. They kind of underwhelm. And that's what happened here with Josh Sweat. This isn't training camp practices. This is Taylor Lewan. Yes, an uptick in competition, but slow get off. Didn't see him basically beat Lewan once on a pass rush. Some run defense prowess. Okay, we saw some of that, but from a pass rushing perspective, he got shut down. And I don't want to hear that it's Taylor Lewan, because if Josh Sweat was as good as advertised, then he would have beaten Taylor Lewan at least a couple times. But he didn't beat him at all.
Yeah, you nailed it. Josh, right? That conversation was funny when we were prepping in the group chat. We were cracking up, looking for highlights to go back and watch. And a story came up that I believe Philly500 has to share on the air when it comes to Brandon Graham. And I did not know that at the time of this selection for the Eagles, you were not a happy customer.
No, if you watch my early videos, and Adrian, because me and Adrian, we started off becoming friends by debating, arguing.
Yeah. That's how our friendship started. It's by debating back and forth about Brandon Graham. I thought he was great. Philly500 was like, he stinks.
I used
and we
to
went
say
back and forth.
Yeah, I used to do videos, and I would say that, Brandon Graham's 55. You need to put a decimal point between the fives because he's only good for 5.5 seconds a year. Okay, so I did when I came. It was Doug Peterson's rookie year. There was a lot of things that I was upset about. I wanted Earl Thomas. I wanted Earl Thomas so bad in the draft, and we had a chance to get him. And I thought Brandon Graham early on in his career, he wasn't good. But, in that 2017 season, just seeing the leadership and everything he did, I've softened a lot on Brandon Graham. I respect his game now, and I had to do a video. I did a video, and I made my peace with Brandon Graham a long time ago. But yes, I definitely had a problem with him early in his career.
That's fantastic. Our linebackers are banged the hell up. There's actually a lot of our defensive players that are not practicing, But one of those is Nigel Bradham, and when I saw that and was like, holy hell, you're right. Nigel Bradham hasn't practiced yet. It's something that kind of slipped my mind because Carson Wentz is in the big debate and Sudfeld going down. It just slipped my mind completely. And then I remembered, oh my God, Grugier-Hill is also injured. What are we going to start at linebacker position if Nigel Bradham isn't really ready to rock and roll right off the bat? Is it going to be Gary? Like, that doesn't make me happy.
The two linebackers, I would go with Fort over Gary, to be honest with you.
I actually kind of liked Fort's game the other night. Now, the one pass he got beat, I don't know if the safety, if it was the safety's fault or his.
Yeah, it seemed like there was miscommunication on that, where he was just trying to save his teammate, and he looked like the bad one.
Yeah, but I kind of liked what I saw from him. So I would say Fort and Brown maybe would be your two guys. Now I think Bradham will be back when the season starts, but how many reps will he get early on? He's coming back from a surgery, I think, on his toe. So that's what it is. It's nothing like serious, but it takes time.
Here's what I'll say. I mean, there's at least some depth now at linebacker, or at least a little depth that you can allow for two injuries to happen, and you still got some options in Brown and Fort and even Paul Warlow. So it's not as bad as it was last year in terms of depth.
Definitely not as bad. Zach Brown, it was like he came in with an attitude where it's very Redskins and not so much Eagles, if that makes sense. It seemed like he had this attitude where he didn't want to be here. He hates training camp. And then I saw him do what he does in the first preseason game, and that's just make tackles. He's just like a solid guy who will make his tackles, and it seems like he thrives more in game situations over practice and training camp. So hopefully when it's game time, he has that type of mentality.
Yeah, I remember that happened with Patrick Robinson. Everybody was saying he dunk, and then the season came around and he was awesome.
We know how the Eagles are with linebackers, though. It's not like they're going to go out and get a big name linebacker. They don't treat linebackers like that. So I think we're going to go in with what we have. I really liked what Grugier-Hill was doing, especially after that Dallas game where he talked all the crap and then backed it up.
Yeah, he did. That was a fumble.
Yeah, it was. I like him a lot, and we're gonna get him back. We're gonna get him back, and that's the good news.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's by far the most underrated player on the roster right now. Is Kami Grugier-Hill.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I mentioned him going down, and when I was disappointed about it, it was almost as if some people thought he was still just a special teams guy. He had a role this year where he could have been a legit linebacker, and he's got that work ethic, hustle type mentality where he won't stop going. He has the motor, and not everyone has that. I thought that there was a big opportunity for him right off the gate. Yeah,
not only the motor, he plays with great anticipation and instincts too. I'm trying to remember the play. I think it was a 3rd and goal, like around the 1 yard line, and there was a pitch out to the left. And the way that he just read this option pitch and came and made this tackle for loss, really, really impressive. And he was making plays like this all year last year.
What do you guys think of TJ Edwards?
I was just going to go there, yeah. I don't know. I haven't heard. Great minds think alike.
That's right.
Practice squad, probably.
Yeah. When we first picked him up, everyone was a little excited about him and maybe a little too much, apparently. But
that's the part of the Kool-Aid drinking season that we got to remember about.
Yeah, I was drinking it. I like that pickup.
That's great. No, I mean, listen, just because you like the pickup doesn't mean you were wrong if he ends up being a practice squad player. Like, there's a reason why he was undrafted.
Right.
Yeah.
So, yesterday in practice, or it might have been today, it looked like Roddy McLeod was a little slow to get up. So that brings us to our safeties. I know they've been impressed with Sandejo. Is that a name that might be getting more time than we expected right off the start as well? But, it looks like he was a little slow to get up, and that's not good news.
Yeah. No, go ahead, Adrian.
Yeah, I mean, not good news. Whatever, but not whatever, but
whatever. I'll go out there and play. I'll take the spot.
They brought in Jonathan Cyprien, and we talk about that linebacker position as well again, and you look at Cyprien to kind of throw in this mix. So if you have an injury to a safety, again, you have a guy like Cyprien, Sandejo, Jenkins. They have some more depth here. And that is the thing about this entire Eagles roster is not only are they loaded at every position, there is depth at every position that you can overcome injuries because of this depth. And even you brought in Cyprien, like, a week ago. So this roster is freaking loaded.
And Jonathan Cyprien has made an impact right away. He's made an impact right away. I really love that pickup. I like it a lot. And the thing with him though and Sendejo is they're great in the box safeties. They can tackle, but they're not great in pass coverage. And that's the one thing I worry about. But I'm telling you, and I say this every year, put Russell Douglas at safety.
Yeah.
In 2 years, you'll have a top 5 safety in the league.
Yeah, a lot of people have been saying that for a while. Let's keep it in the division now. Daniel Jones is elite. Who saw that preseason game 1, huh? Oh, how funny. How funny is that?
I did have Daniel Jones ranked as my top quarterback heading into the NFL draft.
Oh,
Did
no.
you really? Oh, no.
Oh, you're in the hype mode, huh? So you're all in on Daniel Jones.
I'm not in the hype mode. I still kind of think, this was a really, really bad NFL draft class for quarterbacks. So even though he was my number 1 guy, I still think he stinks.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I guess that's fair. It's just funny because that media crushed him that day, and I put myself in his shoes sometimes. Like, this kid has to mentally prepare knowing that nobody was happy with him, and he had to try and prove them all wrong.
Right.
Yeah. No, that's really impressive for him to go do that, especially with all.
He's looked. By all accounts, he's looked really good. The funny thing to me has just been the Giant fans. You watch their initial reaction and freak out when they take Daniel Jones. Then you watch the brainwashing months. And they brainwash themselves every day about how he's good. And he might turn out to be good, he might turn out to be bad. But the brainwashing was there. And then you get people like Bad Dog, and he's every day his video. Daniel Jones is gonna be better than Dak Prescott. Daniel Jones is going to be better than Mitch Trubisky. Daniel Jones is going to be better. Like, every day, he's better than somebody. The guy played 1 preseason game. We're going to find out. We'll see.
That's how I would compare him is to Trubisky, and I'm not like a crazy Trubisky guy. So maybe fringe top 20 quarterback in the NFL is your ceiling for Daniel Jones.
The thing I'll say about the brainwashing, though, it is so true, and you do watch it slowly progress, but we would be the same exact way. You can't deny it. We would be the same way. We'd be pissed off with that number 6 pick. We'd be miserable, freaking out, and then by September, we're clapping our hands, saying, let's go.
Of course. Look, we used to be the Giants. The Giants and the Eagles have reversed. The Giants used to have the franchise quarterback, the stability, and then the Eagle fans were freaking out, hating every pick, and then brainwashing ourselves. It's reversed. Now the Giants stink. They stink, and they're going to stink for a long time, and we're going to win a lot of championships. So it's like we're in an alternate reality now. I love it.
How about the Cowboys and Zeke? Because my take on it is, I'm sorry, dude. I'm not paying you that much money because that running back position is just not focused like that. I wouldn't pay him, but Jerry Jones is a different type of guy. Who knows? He actually, it seems like his personality would not pay him as well because he has so much ego. So we'll see how this all plays out, but I wouldn't pay him. What do you think?
I pay him.
You'd pay him?
I pay. Look, Zeke Elliott is 85% of their offense.
Well, then you can't pay Dak big money then. And then you got to go find a quarterback.
Well,
I mean, if I were the Cowboys, that's what I do. I think Dak Prescott stinks.
Yeah.
But they're not going to do that. They're going to pay both of them.
What I would do is, if I was Dallas, I would pay him and Dak, and I would probably let Amari Cooper. That's what I would do. I think I just read something today that Dak turned down apparently $30 million a year. So he's going to get more than Carson Wentz. But if you take Zeke Elliott out of that, Dallas not the same. Dak Prescott, he's always been in a position where he's the game manager. Look at Dallas. This is how you beat Dallas. You beat Dallas, put him in 3rd and 6 or longer, and you're going to win. That's how you beat Dallas, because when Dak Prescott has to put the game, in his hands, he can't do it. Now Dallas is going to come back, and the fans are going to say, well, he has 14 fourth quarter comebacks. Yeah, but 12 of them, all he had to do was get into field goal range. Okay, one play, one screen pass at Zeke Elliott, and you're in field goal range. I'm not a Dak guy, but I think Zeke is a top 2 running back in this. And if he's 85% of your offense, I don't see what choice Dallas has.
Here's where I'll counter and throw my punch in here. One, the assets you can get for Zeke is insane and can totally rebuild your entire roster. Because, now, I don't think Jerry Jones thinks this smart, but when he's when he's looking at those three players and putting all of his money into one basket, he's not Howie Roseman. Howie Roseman has loopholes and has so much involved in all these contracts where you trust moves like that. Jerry Jones is just going to write the check and hand it to those three guys, and then he's literally screwed moving forward trying to build a real team. So whether Dak Prescott is this great guy or he's just a manager or whatever the case may be, you can't go through a non-quarterback phase again. Like, when you find a guy who's worthy enough, in the NFL, you can't just throw that away to go back to the draft and try and start over, especially if you're with an organization that's in a mode to win now, and then you're selling your fan base, oh, hey, we're restarting, because the quarterback is so important. So to get rid of Dak is almost impossible. They're in a tough spot, but I can't pay a running back that much, no matter how valuable he is to the team right now. Get assets, make a new move that way, but I can't get rid of Dak, and you can't pay both or all of them.
Well, is a first-round pick in return. And is that first-round pick going to be better than Zeke Elliott?
You think they just get one first-round pick for Zeke?
Pretty much. That's pretty much what you're going to get. First and maybe a third or something.
See, I disagree, because if Khalil Mack got what he got, like, I'm not going to say it's going to go to that extreme.
Top 2 player in the league.
But you're talking about the second best or first best running back in the league to an elite level. I don't know. I'm just saying. Like, I've seen other crazy things.
Let me ask you this, bros. If you're not willing to pay him, then why would another team say, well, he's worth 3 first-round picks?
Well, because other teams would be willing to pay him.
Right.
And that's just reality of it. At the end of the day, other teams will do it.
If they could pull a move where they got a ton of assets for him, that would be a brilliant move, I think. I could understand that if Dallas did that, like a Herschel Walker type thing, but I don't know what they would get back.
For example, you look at the Rams, and C.J. Anderson stepped into that offense at the end of the year and was good enough. And you can't put $35 million a year into a running back, even though he is the most prized possession in that offense. There's got to be a different way to look at it, because if I'm GM, I can't value that much money of my salary cap in a running back.
Yeah, I understand where you're coming from with that.
I will say this: I do think the game has changed in a sense that you can pay running backs now because of how multidimensional the position has become. So this argument that you can't pay running backs, I feel like that's an argument for like 5 years ago. But now, since guys like Le'Veon Bell, guys like Todd Gurley can catch passes coming out of the backfield, I think running backs are now more valuable than they were before. But the thing about Zeke is he's not a big guy who is going to catch passes out of the backfield, at least run routes. He'll catch you swing passes, but he's not a guy who's going to line out wide and run a quick slant.
Thing is Zeke is he is a I consider him a once in every 10-year type player. I think he's a generational running back. And they don't grow on trees. And I think that he's got Dallas in a tough spot. But I think that at this point in the way that Dallas runs their offense, if you put another running back in there, I don't think that Dallas is going to be as good. I think Elliott is that good. So
they've done that before. They did that when Zeke got hurt. They averaged a full yard per carry less when he, and I forget what year that was, but that was like Rod Smith and Alfred Morris were getting the carries. And they weren't good offensively. They were very, very plain and vanilla. They were struggling.
And he's what? He's 24 years old, right?
Yep, I think 24.
So if he signs a 5-6 year contract, he's going to be, I think one big contract, and then I could understand if he was 30, but he's only 24 years old. And I think he had like 7 catches last year. He is 85% down. And
you made a good point then. You made a good point. Then maybe I look elsewhere and say, Amari Cooper, we're not going to keep you. But Jerry Jones traded that first-round pick. I don't believe he's going to do that. I'm just processing all of that money in those 3 players with a GM, with air quotes, because what is he? With a man who doesn't have that much knowledge of the salary cap to the level of Howie Roseman, because we can't even break down some of these moves Howie Roseman makes because it doesn't even make sense because he's that much of a cheat code when it comes to numbers. So to put that much money in 3 players on a guy who's just going to write the check, that's where I would raise the question. So whether that's keeping Zeke and doing another move, that's what maybe they would have to do. But
and here's a question I have for you guys when Dallas. So you got two guys that want a contract, right? Two of your foundational players. You have Dak Prescott, who's at camp doing everything he's supposed to do, wants a new contract. Then you have Zeke holding out in Mexico, seeing it buffets, eating, getting fat, feeding his fat face. Okay, now he's holding out. If you sign Zeke Elliott first, what does that say to Dak Prescott? If you sign Dak Prescott, what does it say about how you value it? I think Dallas is in a tough spot here. What I'm hoping now is that Jared Goff signs an extension, so Dak gets even more money. I say pay them all, give them everything they want.
I was having a discussion with one of my buddies, and he thinks Jared Goff truly stinks. Like, he wasn't impressed with him at all last year, and I was the complete opposite. I thought he wasn't that great after his first year, of course, but Jeff Fisher plays a factor into that. But I saw him make these throws last year where he was like perfectly placing them 50 yards downfield right into the breadbasket. I'm actually a fan of Jared Goff. I don't think he's just a Sean McVay puppet.
I like Goff.
Yeah, I do too.
Describing him as a Sean McVay puppet is harsh.
Yes.
I do think he's slightly overrated, but Vikings tape, you will see some of the most beautiful throws from the arm of Jared Goff. He was unbelievable in that game. In the back corners of the end zone was impeccable. Has the deep accuracy. It just sometimes, he can be a little stupid, but
well, yeah, that comes with age and learning. But listen, I'm so excited for this Eagle season. Watching Doug Pederson come out of the tunnel with the visor on, and I love it. I love everything about it. Isn't it crazy how much we fell in love with Doug Pederson? Were you guys fans of the hire? Because at the time, I was your Brandon Graham story. I was questioning what the hell we were doing.
Yeah. You want to hear a true story? I wrote an article that I completely did not believe in. If you go back and like kind of read what I wrote, like a lot of the things that I wrote actually came true, which is crazy.
I was very upset when they hired Doug Pederson.
Probably more upset than you, Philly.
Because I thought that they were setting it up so Howie basically had his guy that would never question him because of everything that happened with Chip Kelly and all those kind of things. And then, his first season, I wasn't that impressed with him. Obviously, I had that big, huge rant on him after the Dallas game, which was on the NFL Network, on that Doug Pederson show. But I didn't want to fire him after year one. I wanted to give him a year because I thought he at least deserved it. And I think from his rookie year to his second year, I think he changed dramatically as a coach. I really do. And then his brilliance came out when Foles had to come in, and they basically changed the whole offense. That's when you were like, yeah, this guy is the real deal.
Yeah, I wouldn't go as far as actually firing him after year one. I wouldn't go to that degree. But at the time, I wanted the Sean... why am I drawing a blank? With the Panthers. Sean McDermott. That's who I wanted. He was in the running. I wasn't a big fan of Ben McAdoo. I know he was also talking with the Eagles as well. But I would have went with Sean McDermott. That would have been the guy I targeted there. But, hey, I'm happy we didn't just because Doug Pederson is electric and such a leader of men. Yeah. That's the best way to describe it. He's such a leader of men.
He's the only one who still has a job out of all the coaches that got hired.
Yeah, I wanted the guy who was the coach of the Jets again? What's his name? That's who I wanted.
Yeah, that's who I wanted Adam Gase too.
See, I'm anti. I think he's a tool bag. I literally think he's an absolute tool. Yeah, true. I mean, I didn't know Ben McAdoo was going to be as much of a trash can as he was, but Adam Gase, it seems like he thinks he's too much. It's almost as if he's a Chip Kelly, like.
Yeah, I can see
a lot of these coaches are like this, unfortunately.
Not the leader of men.
I mean, I just thought that Doug was being hired because look, Doug was not even a candidate to other teams. Nobody was even talking about him having a potential head coaching job. It came out of left field. And it was like, okay, everything that happened with Chip Kelly and then Howie Roseman in the boiler room, I thought Howie was going to make sure he set it up where that would never happen again. And that was my fear with Doug Pederson. But I think his rookie year, I don't think I think it was a learning process for Doug. I don't think he was that great. Me and Adrian, we used to talk about it all the time. There were a lot of things that we didn't like. But second year, he especially after that Chargers game, I think that Chargers game is when you really saw.
They started running the ball.
Because they started running the ball, and he wasn't stubborn. He was listening to players. And that's when he started to win me over, in that Chargers game specifically.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I love when he actually runs the ball. It makes a lot of sense. With Doug Pederson, I was telling Adrian this once. My feelings on him is I don't know how great he is at game planning offensively. And I know he's not terrible. I'm not going to go to the level of he's bad at it. But I think he really gets help from his coordinators, and that puts him over the edge because he does one thing very well when it's being a coach, having everyone believe. Like, he keeps the locker room the right way. The culture is unreal. He does that so well, and you need a good mix. You can't be a great X's and O's guy and then have a terrible locker room. So you need to have a good mix of both. Yeah. But I don't know if he's the greatest offensive game planner as an individual. He gets a lot of help from other people, and then they put it all together, and I think that's why he's so successful.
Well,
you know what he does do? He makes halftime adjustments.
Yeah.
He does.
Yeah.
Impresses me about him.
Yeah.
A lot of times you'll see the Eagles, they'll trail at halftime, which goes to your thing about game planning.
Yeah.
And not getting off to these leads all the time, because they do start slow. The first quarter points last year, they were dead last in the NFL.
Yeah.
That's when Doug always seems to make the proper adjustment.
And Doug's got balls, man. He's got balls to go
for
it. That's what I love about that. I mean, even you're going to talk about the Philly special, of course, in Super Bowl. It's such a ballsy call. And I respect that. I respect how they adjusted offense for Nick Foles. That, to me, was brilliance. That was brilliance. And I am concerned, though, about Mike Groh. I don't know what to think about him. And I think that last year Mike Groh struggled. And I think if you look at the end of the year, I think Doug Pederson took over, in a sense, on that offense a little more. And it showed in the playoffs and the run we made. But Mike Groh, I'm concerned about. Doug Pederson, I'd say, is a top three coach in the league.
Yeah, you mentioned Mike Groh. That's someone I'm definitely concerned about too. The way we started off this every game, the quarter, it was unbelievable. The first quarter was atrocious. We couldn't score any points, and then your football team's in a hole almost every single time, and you got to try and find a way to battle back. You can't have that, and I wonder if the experience last year, having to see these players, seeing their pros and their cons firsthand for so long, and then having an offseason with Doug, if that experience, kind of like what we talked about with Doug Pederson as a head coach, he got that experience in that 7-9 year, maybe Mike Groh can gather that kind of stuff, move it forward for this year, and then we can attack.
Yeah, I agree. Totally agree.
Yeah, so I'm super pumped. I hate to be the guy to think 12-5. You know, that's too standard of a record. It seems like that's a safe bet, but I see that is where this football team can really be at the end of the day.
I am very, very high on this team.
Yeah, you are. You're balls. You're Doug Pederson.
Yeah, lots of balls. So I'll just kind of give you my little comparison real quick. So 49ers, back in 1981, won the Super Bowl for the first time. Nobody really knew who Joe Montana was. Their offense was ranked 17th. Joe Montana did not have his first 300-yard game until the playoffs against the Giants. So they won this first Super Bowl based on this West Coast offense. They broke a trend in the NFL, which is to run the ball on first down, run the ball on second down, run, outrun. Well, they were revolutionizing the NFL with their timing and precise passing attack. And a lot of people thought it was a gimmick, kind of like a couple years ago with the zone read, or the RPOs, I should say, with the Eagles and Doug Pederson. So last year, Eagles stunk. 1982, 49ers don't make the playoffs. 1983, they get to the NFC Championship game, but I believe they only went 10-6 during the regular season. 1984, their roster is stacked, it's loaded. They go 15-1.
Wow.
So Joe Montana heading into that 1984 season, and just everyone in general, the NFL thought that the 49ers were a fluke and a joke, and just, not really – it wasn't really the way that you were supposed to play football, was throwing the ball and doing the West Coast offense and all this stuff. So the Eagles have motivation, kind of like that 1984 team. So you got to have a perfect storm in order to go 14-2, which is what I'm going to predict the Eagles to go this year.
Wow. 14-2.
So you got to have a perfect storm of talent, and not only that, but motivation. There was motivation on that 1984 49ers team. There was a lot of motivation on this current Eagles team, especially for Carson Wentz. So I think Carson is going to have a huge year, but not only just him, but the entire team in general, not wanting to back down and think that they're a fluke winning the Super Bowl from 2 years ago, because that's what people think right now. That they were a fluke. They won it all. Nick Foles was the quarterback, and it was a great story, but the Eagles aren't really a Super Bowl team. Yeah. Well, this year they're going to prove to the world that they're a fucking Super Bowl team.
Yeah. I got them 13-3. I got them 13-3. I think they'll lose the last game because they'll have the third string in. And I think they'll be the number one seed going to the playoffs. And I think we got a real shot to win the thing. This is a good team. And you talk about the 49ers. I think about New England. When New England won a Super Bowl with Brady, then they had kind of an off year, and they come back and win it, the year after, like 2 years later. So I kind of feel that set up for the Eagles right now.
Yeah. Hey, listen, I would
make
love
that
it.
Comparison too. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I would love if the Eagles come up with any of these circumstances, to be honest with you. I mean, I can't wait. Watching them run out the tunnel in that preseason game got me all fired up. But you talked about the Eagles not being a Super Bowl championship team. I can't believe people think that, because it's so funny. The Patriots go on their dynasty run, so everyone believes in them being a team that wins a lot of titles. It's almost as if you win one Super Bowl and that's it, like you win one championship and then you don't win another one for 10 years, like, oh, well, you're not a real champion because you only won one. It's not a dynasty. Well, that's not how it works. So how can we be a fake Super Bowl champion,
Yeah. Oh,
yeah, it's so hard. It's not like everyone does what the Patriots do, because then, people are the Seahawks fake. They got the one championship, right? And then the pass happened and whatnot. So are they a dynasty? Like, how does it all work? Who calls that?
Right. No, I mean, not everybody's a Patriots, but I think that if you look at the 2017 season, the Eagles were the best from the start of that season all the way through. And a lot of people really feel that if Carson doesn't get hurt, that the Eagles don't win Super Bowl. I think if Carson plays, he blows out everybody. I don't think it would have mattered. And that's how I feel. I don't feel like it mattered. And that's why I'm so excited, because I want Carson to get that championship, because I think that I think people really forget how good he was in 2017.
Yeah, and I think people forget just how good the Eagles were in general. In 2017, before Nick Foles. I mean, you were kind of talking about it. You referenced it. They were blowing everybody out of the water. Now, the schedule wasn't really that difficult, but they're blowing everybody out. I mean, the Bears, the 49ers, the Cowboys, 37-9. They were just kicking the shit out of everybody. So you look at that, and you have this team now, which is even better than that team, because you have more depth at some positions. You have Carson Wentz with a little bit more experience. I mean, sky's the limit here, gentlemen.
Yeah.
Sky is the limit. We have two little topics to touch on before we end this podcast. One, Jim Schwartz, because you mentioned Mike Groh, and then I'm thinking, okay, Jim Schwartz. What about Jim Schwartz? And I can't stand the fence defenses, as we all know. Yeah, but me and you always had that conversation. You defend Jim Schwartz more than I ever have. I'm starting to turn around on him, though. As frustrating as that part of the game is, I do think that there's times and spots where I think Jim Schwartz needs to adjust, whether it's bring a blitz once in a blue moon just to throw the defense, or just to throw the offense off just a hair, because they get away with not blitzing too much. They get comfortable. I don't know. There's times where he needs to add something fresh. Right. But overall, he won a Super Bowl with this defense. He's had success in this league with this defense. So as much as I hate it at times, and it makes me cringe and bite my fist and throw fists in the air towards the TV, but not connect, the defense does work when it is executed.
It does. And the thing that you have to look at with this defense is what it does in the red zone. And ultimately, that is what a shutdown defense is in today's NFL. is red zone defense, preventing the other team from scoring touchdowns, and you on the other end scoring touchdowns yourself with your offense. So with Jim, I mean, I always see teams settling for field goals in the red zone, and it can be annoying as shit when it's 3rd and 15. And, you see that pass completed, and we always look at the bad, and we want to, really emphasize that. But in terms of the red zone defense, this Eagles defense is the best in the league. And Jim Schwartz is part of the reason why.
Yeah, I from a philosophy standpoint, I'm not a Jim Schwartz guy. I am a big believer in the old Buddy Ryan, the Jim Johnson. I believe in bring pressure. I believe in the blitz. I believe in it so much. But Jim Schwartz is a very good defensive coordinator. I think he's a very good defensive coordinator. I like the blitz. I like going at the quarterback. And he relies strictly on that defensive line to get pressure. If they're not getting pressure, we're getting killed. And if you look at the Tennessee Titan game, right, this is where my issues were. 4th and 15. He drops everybody back to the sticks. They get the first down. Then they go down there. It was a 3rd and goal. And he decides to blitz when he should have dropped everybody back because you had a short field in the back of the end zone. Things like that bother me. But he's a very good defensive coordinator. I agree. I like Jim Schwartz. I just, from a philosophy standpoint, I'm more go get the quarterback, blitz, bring the heat. That's kind of what I grew up with.
Yeah, he definitely needs to do a better job with that, in my opinion, because I do think it works. And it's tough in this league. He's been doing essentially the same thing for how many years now? So there's so much film on the way he plays, and it's still successful for the most part. Like we said, we know there's times you can look at the Panthers game where we had a 17-0 lead in the 4th quarter and we blew it in the Titans. So we can look at those heavily. But as a whole, for being in the league that long and having the same success rate, it's pretty hard to do, really.
Yeah. I think a lot of those games that we lost last year, like the Carolina and the Tennessee game, I think a lot of that was not being able to run the ball in the 4th quarter. I mean, if you look at 2017, we had LeGarrette Blount, 6-minute drives, kill the clock, and it's over.
Yeah.
I think that's where you're going to see Jordan Howard. And we were texting today, and you remember that. I think Jordan Howard, at some point this season, you're going to see more Miles Sanders, but I think Howard is going to be that 4th quarter closer that's going to come out when you need that 6-minute drive, take time off the clock in the 4th quarter, keep the chains moving. That's kind of how I see it.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope so. Okay, I thought you had something to say there, but let's end with this. Antonio Brown. I just find this hilarious. I literally just find this hilarious. He might sit out because they won't allow him to wear a helmet?
It's the most bizarre thing I've ever.
Pick your battles. Am I right?
I got nothing. I got nothing.
Your battles. We're talking about the same guy who didn't want to wear footsies on his feet, so now he has frostbite on his foot.
I'm shaking my head. I'm putting my palm to my face. What are you doing, Antonio? I'm just shaking my head.
He's threatening to retire, right? He's threatening to retire.
He's threatening to retire.
I got a buddy who was a big time diehard Raiders fan, and when the trade happened, it's going to be great, so pumped, as you should be in the moment, right when you find out. But I said, dude, there's going to be so much drama with this guy. But it doesn't matter. On Sundays, he's going to produce. I texted him as soon as that popped up on Twitter. I took a screenshot, and he just put up cracking up emojis.
I mean, obviously the guy's just getting paid. I don't think he'll really retire, but it's just unbelievable. That is some prima donna stuff right there. Dude.
So we never talked about Andre Dillard. So I'm going to talk about. I'm going to talk about Andre Dillard right now.
Good stuff.
He was outstanding. He was unbelievable. And I'll say this, I was wrong about him, okay? So besides maybe 2 bull rushes, and he didn't even get beat on these bull rushes either, he wasn't beaten all night. You couldn't get past him. His pass sets are so quick. His feet are so smooth. He looks like he's ready to go week 1.
Yeah, stud. Total stud.
I was wrong about him.
Isn't that great? He's solid. What is up with this organization when it comes to left tackles? You got to praise him. You got to praise him. We have been so spoiled with fantastic left tackles throughout so many years, and it looks like we just found another guy who might be able to hold in there and hold the fort down for another, 10, 15 years maybe?
Yeah. I think this draft is really going to be a good draft. I mean, I think you got 3 solid players with Dillard, Sanders, and arcega-whiteside. I think you did.
Arcega-whiteside. Like Daffy Duck. Arcega-whiteside.
That's awesome. We're going to end this podcast. I want to thank Philly500 and the Bitterbirds for hopping on to talk some Eagles football. We have the season sneaking up on us, so we're all waiting and scratching and crawling for it. We're reading up reports play-by-play from all the beat reporters during practice. Thank you guys so much for listening. Hit that thumbs up button and subscribe if you are watching on the YouTube channel. If you're listening to it on the podcast app, leave a nice little review and maybe a 5-star rating.